All right, we're back, and this is a podcast. This is not about games. And
Podcastaroo.
Podcastaroo. I don't know what number this is. 3? 5? I don't know.
17.
We lost like 4 of them. So,
1.
yeah. The topic for today is dreams, or as we like to say, drums.
Trams.
The dram. Rip the dram.
Dreams. I like dreams. So, throwback to this podcast is remember in the old Caster Central days, we did a good podcast about drums. And we lost that because we lost all the Caster Central stuff. So, here we are, about 2 years later, talking about dreams again.
Ripcaster Central.
And, yeah, Rip Caster Central. Good times. But
It's okay. The rebrand's way better.
yeah, now we're Fall Damage on Mac. That's Moose in the middle. That's Alt on the left. And we got some really good, I think, some really good questions, topics, ideas about the overall topic, dreams. So, why did I bring this up? Because the other night I had a nightmare. I don't really remember it very much. I just remember it was a nightmare. But I don't remember if I told you guys like a week ago or 2 weeks ago, I had a nightmare of like something terrible happened to me. And I couldn't wake up from it. And then Dirk, that thing right there, he sleeps in my closet because he has like a bunch of blankets in there. He came out of the closet and he bit my hand, and I woke up from the nightmare. That was like 2 weeks ago. So that was wild.
You got night terror.
Yeah.
Good damn.
Yeah. So it brought up the topic of dreams because there's also good dreams, right? Just recently, I haven't had too many. I've had like some bad dreams, which is weird because my actual life has really stabilized. It's been pretty good. So
That's a way to balance you out.
yeah, I know. I used to have like really good dreams when my life was shitty. What's up with that?
Dreaming about the future.
Yeah, I guess.
Future.
So I don't know if we should go with the questions first and then we should talk about the dreams. How do you guys want to do this? Do you want to go about? So what I was thinking, we could talk about one good dream and one bad dream or nightmare, the ones that you can remember or recall. But I had some questions first with regards to the overall topic of dreams. Do you want to do that first, or do you want to delve straight into the?
Well, it depends on how you want to construct this. So if we go over the dreams first, then we could re-break down the dreams as we go through the questions, maybe.
Okay, so if you don't have to use both. If you have a nightmare, if you have a good dream, or if you have both that you can kind of recall, cool. If not, that's also cool. But everybody has at least one dream that they kind of remember or that kind of sticks with them. So if you have that, just give us like, doesn't have to be super detailed or whatever. Just give us like a short synopsis of like what the dream is about, and just tell me if it's a good dream or a bad dream. So I don't know who wants to start.
I can go first.
Okay, is this a good dream, bad dream?
We'll start with the good dream first.
Okay.
And it's the first time I ever lucid dreamed. I'm going to look up. I got a list of stuff here. But 1 second. So my first lucid dream, which is probably my favorite good dream. I have all my dreams, to me personally, I don't really have nightmares that I see as nightmares, because everything is me dreaming is like me playing VR, just asleep, So I think every experience is exciting in its own way. They are terrifying dreams. I've had some fucking terrifying dreams, but as far as the good and bad go, I don't have any difference. There's no difference to me. But the first good dream I had, the first noticeably lucid dream I had, was a dream I called the jump dream, or the green zone dream. So in this dream, this was fucking back in college. I went to sleep one night. I don't remember what the hell we were doing. Doesn't really matter. Went to sleep one night, and it felt like I dreamt forever, for literal ever. It just felt like I was in this dream for an eternity, basically. And not a whole lot happened in this dream, which is funny. So I go into this dream. I pop into the dream, basically. It was like a loading screen, basically, for a dream. So I'm in there, and I think it was before I even saw The Matrix or anything like that. So I had no like context to how this dream the experience was at the time, even for my brain to like conceive. But in this dream, I'm in a grassy plain. There's some hilly or rolling hills, basically, and there was a black figure standing in the middle of this rolling area. So I'm far away, fully aware that I'm in a dream at this point, but no clue what the hell's going on. This is a weird experience for me because I'm walking around in a grassy, hilly area. I see this dark figure standing in the middle of this dream, and I walk up to him, and he doesn't say a lot. And he's like, "What do you want to do?" Or I'm paraphrasing slightly because I don't know exactly what he said, but he basically is like, "What do you want to do?" Like in this dream or in this while you're here. And I'm like, "I don't know, jump really high." And he's like, "Cool." So he gives me hands in his hand, and he has a piece of gum in it. Like it doesn't look like anything fancy. It's just a piece of gum, basically. He's like, "Chew this, and then jump." And I'm like, "Cool." So I grabbed the gum, put it in my mouth, and it was a weird experience too because I could taste it in this dream. Like I've never tasted anything in a dream before. Like I could taste like the texture of the gum, the flavor of the gum. It was very gum tasting. It's like the minty gum, you get from like a baseball game. It's just a really gross tasting gum you get, but it's really chewy. So I got it in my mouth and creating this like really gross paste in my mouth. And then I'm like, all right. So I jump and I just fucking like rocket into space, basically. I probably jump, a football field's height, right? And I'm like in the air and I'm freaking out because I'm not sure what I'm going to do when I land. So I'm up in the air and at first it's terrifying. And then I'm coming down. It's even more terrifying because I'm like, oh shit, I'm going to hit the ground. It's going to fucking hurt, right? Because I'm expecting my knees to brace myself. But instead of, impacting the ground and dying, I bounce and I jump again. And this becomes the dream, right? And this is just the very most basic lucid dream I ever had. But the time that I felt in the dream felt like so long because the whole time I was in this dream, it was just me jumping around in this plane of endless grassy field. And that was it. That was the dream. Like that was the most ridiculous dream I ever had in my life.
At first, land.
Oh, I could land. I just couldn't like hurt myself landing. So like the whole premise
of like stop jumping.
Yeah.
Oh, I could stop jumping. I just didn't want to stop jumping. Like I could stop. Like I could hit the ground and stop jumping. The initial impact was me just re-jumping. Basically, there was no like impact feeling. Because my legs hitting the ground and I could just jump again. There was no like, it didn't have a feeling of, I didn't hurt myself. So I was like, oh, I can keep doing this. So I just kept jumping. Mm-hmm. And that was the whole dream, was me jumping around in this area. So moving on, I had a redo of this dream, which I listed in the Discord chat we were.
Hold on that thought. Because I want to bring that back when we talk about.
Okay. Yeah. I can go over my bad dream too if you want to.
Yeah, do the bad dream.
Okay,
so I guess technically
the scary dream.
Yeah,
I guess for me,
the
nightmare version. Okay, so this is my other lucid dream that I had, and it's this is the Ghost City dream, I call it, or the City of Ghosts. This is a really weird dream, and it was only scary because I died in this dream. And what was weird about this dream is A, it was lucid, and B, I died. But I didn't die. Like I died and I came back as a ghost in the same world area. Right. So most of my dreams from the time I started dreaming have been post-apocalyptic style dreams, like death by meteor, death by fucking black hole being too close to our solar system, death by sun exploding, death by all kinds of like just things, world-ending dreams, right? Back when I was watching Sliders still when I was younger. I had a dream about one of the experiences that they had in the show, kind of. So a world was about to end, and the only way to get everybody out was to go through a slider portal, and they exited into another dimension, basically. That's not what this dream was about, though. Anyway, so they're all post-apocalyptic style dreams, basically, and it's been this way forever. But anyway, so I'm in this dream. I'm in a normal person world. It's nighttime when I start out. So I come into this dream. I just got off work, and when I got out of the building, I don't remember what I was doing before that, but I do know that I'm dreaming at this point. So I come out of the building, I'm like, wow, I'm in a dream now, right? So I'm standing around and I hear sirens going off everywhere, like fucking everywhere. Like the cityscape is it's just resonating sirens everywhere. Just city sirens, like police sirens, or like the big tornado siren sound, like the what do you call them, the alert sirens. I hear that going off everywhere, and I'm like, what the fuck is going on, right? So I'm walking around trying to get a feel for the environment because it's just a dark cityscape at this point, trying to figure out what the hell's going on. Also, in my lucid dreams, I have control of myself, but I don't always have control of the entire landscape of the dream, right? And I'll come back to that after we go to some other questions later on. But anyway, I am lucid in this dream, so I have control of my body, I have control of where I go, I have control of how I talk to people, what I taste, smell, and feel. But in this dream, I'm looking around for some escape from this area because I have no clue where I'm at. I hear a bunch of sirens going off. I'm assuming something's bad's happening. But I don't see anybody. Everybody's just non-existent. So I happen upon a car that had keys in it. I jump in the car and I drive off, trying to figure out what the fuck's going on. I get out of the city and I roll up on a hill. So the city's kind of like in a valley. I drive up on the top of a hill outside the city. So I'm looking over the city. I can see the horizon in all directions. And I see a fucking meteor or an asteroid, giant asteroid. Like it's big enough that it fills portions of the sky, right? And I can see like the trail of like smaller meteorites behind it that will impact afterwards, right? So anyway, so I'm standing there and I see the asteroid impact the planet. I could see like the fire rolling over the city and it's coming towards me. And like this hit way in the distance, like past the horizon. It's just so big I can see it past the horizon. It impacts the ground. I see fire rolling over the city. I see it come towards me and there's nothing I can do at this point. So I'm just like, I guess I'll die then. So, because like running away is pointless. I'm standing there. I'm like, well, I'm not going to get away from this. I'm not waking up yet, obviously. So I guess I'll just die with this fucking asteroid. So the asteroid rolls over me. I can feel the heat of the flames, but I don't feel the pain from it. Like I feel like I'm getting warmer as it's passing over me. And then I noticeably die because I'm not conscious in the dream anymore, as far as I can tell. But I'm still like aware that I'm in dream state still. And then I wake up and there's just people everywhere. Literally fucking a city of people around me. It's really weird though, because like I feel like I'm in the same place. Like everything's kind of destroyed around me still, but there's like a bunch of people around me. I'm like, what the hell is going on? So I'm laying there on the ground, looking around. I kind of get myself up and I walk around and I'm trying to interact with people. Some of them I can talk to, some of them I can't. They're kind of like NPCs and non-interactable NPCs that are just milling about aimlessly, and people that I can actually talk to. So I'm asking about what happened. The people I can interact with know what happened for the most part. They said something catastrophic happened to the planet, and now they're kind of isolated to this one area. And like there's a huge wall in this little city area that's surrounding it, and it looks like it's completely sealed off from other places outside. Like people outside of there aren't, they're not supposed to come in, right? But like there's buildings, shanties and shit like that like everybody's kind of rebuilding society a little bit. And I happened upon a person and I was like, hey, explain to me what the hell is going on here. I'm new here. I don't understand. And they're like, oh, okay, yeah. So they're like, an asteroid hit the planet, 100 years ago or whatever. And this is the result of the population rebuilding. And I was like, oh, cool. So I talked to this person for a little while. I'm like, hey, is there any reason I can't talk to, say, that person over there? And they're like, oh, yeah. Well, let me show you something. So I go over to that person, which I thought was, basically a non-interactable NPC guy. And he puts his hand in front of his face. He waves around. He's like, see, he can't see me. There's nothing going on. But he sees that other guy talking to another person together. And he's like, and he like tries to push through him, and his hand goes through him. He pulls it out, and he's like, so this is how society is right now. We're ghosts, basically. And I'm paraphrasing because I can't remember context. Exactly.
Basically, you live in different planes of existence.
Yeah, exactly. So this is kind of how this is working out, right? So, but it's what's really weird is we can see like everybody else, the rest of society on the planet that's still alive. But we can't interact with them directly at all. But there's a wall surrounding the area that I think was built either by us or them that separates the ghosts or extra dimensional people from the normal people or like the Earth dimension people. And so that's a thing. And I'm like, oh, okay, interesting. So I'm walking around the city. I basically just talk to everybody as much as I can. Then I wake up, and that was the dream, more or less. So asteroid hits the planet, I die, and then I end up in this ghost city, basically, or extra dimensional city, or whatever you want to call it. Or basically ghosts, though, because we can't touch anybody, whatever. But then later in this episode, we'll come back to that because I have a revisit to this place as well. And I have that with a lot of my dreams as I revisit a lot of them after the fact. But that's the scarier dream of the two.
Cool. Sure, we'll delve way more into that once we get to the questions.
Yeah, I'm trying not to
go
too far into it.
Moose, do you recall any sort of dream, whether it's good or bad, that has kind of like kept in your memory for a long time, even if it's recent or whatever?
I got 3, but I'll talk about 2 of them.
Okay.
So, the first one I remember is a weird kind of. I'm not sure why, but I would classify it as a nightmare. So there was this. Basically, I grew up in a house, 2 stories, old Victorian, and my bedroom was on the 2nd floor, and I slept in a bunk bed. Okay, that's kind of important. So in the house, in my dream, I'm like semi-lucid, and outside there's just like really weird yellowish glow. Okay, kind of like it was. I'm gonna assume it was probably from the street lamps outside because they give off a weird yellowish glow. But what it was basically my room, which was the 2nd floor, has now become basically the same level as the outside, and I now am what is it called? It's now like Scottish Highlands outside with a single lamp, mind you. So you have like essentially a Narnia situation, but with Scottish Highlands and a lamp. And then there's just wolves all over this hillside. And I think I was like 13, 14 at the time. And I don't know why, but nothing happened. They were just staring at me through the window. And yes, that was a nightmare that stuck with me. Kind of, I don't know why, but it just terrified me. I couldn't go to sleep after that for a while, and I just kind of sat in my bed doing nothing really.
Why did you say that the bunk bed was
because basically they were on the same level. The bunk bed was less important. Mostly it was important that I was like 30 feet up in the air on the 2nd floor.
Mm.
That was the more important part because I was like.
So they just stared at you and they didn't approach?
They just stared at me and I don't know why, but it was just terrifying.
That would be pretty, that is pretty terrifying. You don't know what's going to happen. They're fucking wolves.
Exactly. They're wolves. You can't do nothing.
The giant scary monsters.
Yeah.
And then I also remember a bunch of like just like sleep paralysis. Like I'll be having a dream of me having sleep paralysis, but I'll see it from 3rd person. So like I see all around me while I'm asleep, and I know I'm asleep, but I can't wake up. and I'm just like struggling, trying to get up and move around, whatever you want to call it. And then the other memory that I remember that sticks with me a lot is I think it had to do with me watching Wizard of Oz at one point, because the Wicked Witch of the West terrified me as a kid. And so I remember, like, just some reason I knew there was a witch or witches coming to get me, and I was at the back door, the kitchen door, just trying to keep them out. But for some reason, the door, which is just like a normal door, a big old door, had somehow changed and become a Dutch door, where it's split down the middle point kind of deal, where the top is a part that opens and closes, and the bottom is a part that opens and closes and locks and everything. And I could get the bottom part to close, but I somehow couldn't get the top part to close. And it's just me basically struggling against some witch thing, trying not to get caught by them. I think I basically like switch back and forth between the sides of the door, kind of like almost cartoonish, but it was so weird.
Wait, that's the good dream?
No. The good dream that I can remember currently was one I had probably within the last 6 months, where it's me and Jun Young from Twice. And basically, we're just in a relationship somehow. And like, I don't know if I'm speaking Korean, she's speaking English, but we somehow understand each other. And it's not necessarily a good dream, but it's just kind of like not a bad one.
Wholesome.
Yeah.
Wholesome dreams.
Wholesome dreams.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well.
So yeah. It's the weird stuff.
So those are, I mean, all 4 of those are really good dreams that we can delve into with the questions. So I'm gonna start with this one because this is more personal for you guys. So roughly, how often do you find yourself dreaming, if you could somewhat estimate?
4 to 5 times a week.
Whoa, wow, that's a lot.
I think at least once a week, but I don't always remember.
Okay, yeah.
After I wake up, like I'll know I was dreaming, but I won't remember the contents necessarily, or I'll remember it, but only vague. But there's some that are just like, they just stick, like the one I just mentioned.
Right. Okay, have you ever had control in your dreams?
Yes.
To an extent.
And the 2 dreams I described, I had full control in. I picked those specifically because I had lucid experiences with them. I've had other lucid dreams, but those are the ones that are most prevalent in my mind.
Okay.
Like, I think most of my, if not all my dreams I remember are like lucid. Like, I'll know they're a dream because it doesn't feel, I guess you could say, real. But I don't know how much control I really have, because I don't feel like I've ever tried to mess around with that and experiment with that.
See, that's my experience with dreams, is that really, like, I'm taking part. I've never taken over. So, I don't know. It's weird.
Well, now that you mention that, I remember like one dream where essentially I could fly, kind of. And I had full control of where I wanted to go.
See, but is that a part of the dream narrative, or are you actually like stopping the narrative so you could adjust and be like, let me fly out of here? See, I don't think I've ever had control in a dream. I've had dreams that given me certain attributes that perhaps faked control, like I could stop time. Is that really me doing it, or is that just what the dream is meant for?
Is that what the dream wants me?
Yeah, exactly, right?
You'll know you're having a very lucid dream if you're aware of yourself. It's the feeling of self in a dream is your lucidus. That's your lucid period, right? So it's just like consciousness in your real life, right? So kids don't get a feeling of self until they're like in their almost 10 years old, right? They don't understand that they're an individual. It's kind of the same thing as in your dreams, right? And there's not a really good way. I mean, people say that there's ways that you can train yourself to lucid dream properly. I think that just trying to remember your dreams and writing them down, you'll eventually get there in general. But I think you'll understand the that a dream is lucid by the feeling of self in a dream, because your subconscious has to have that feeling of self too, right? Because you're not in a conscious state where you can be like, oh, this is my body, right? You're in a dream where your body is an imagination of yourself or some other person. And as soon as you're aware that you're that person, that's when you're lucid dreaming. Because then you can be like, oh, that's my hand, right? And you're just like looking at yourself. And you're like, wow, this is really weird that I'm, asleep, but I'm also, a unit inside something else.
Interesting. I don't think I've ever had that experience.
Yeah.
Here's one you already touched on, Alt. Have you ever revisited a dream?
I have. Do you want me to go over the revisitations now?
Please, yeah.
Okay. So in the jump dream, I had met a person, an old man in a black cloak, and he's the one that handed me the gum. And recently-ish, in the last year or two, I have revisited that old man in a lucid dream in that grassy area, but he's built a house, like a cabin almost, in this dream area. So, and we didn't really do anything crazy, right? This wasn't a jump dream. This is like just a revisitation of that dream area. So I pop into the dream again. I'm lucid. And I'm like, wow, this is weird, but there's nobody there this time. So I'm just milling about aimlessly in this grassy plain area. It's not widely apparent that there's anything else different about this dream other than the fact there's no person there anymore. So I'm walking around, and I get up on top of one of the hills, and I can see around me, and I see that there's a small cabin-like structure in the distance. So I start walking myself towards it. And as I get closer and closer, I notice there's like a little small stream, and there's a couple trees, but not like a forest. It's just a couple trees around this cabin. And then there's the cabin built on one of these little grassy knolls. And I was like, oh, cool, interesting. So it's something new in the dream, but everything else is still the grassy plain area. It's almost exactly the same, just an extra structure now. So I go up to this cabin and I knock on the door, and the old man opens up and he greets me, and he ushers me inside, but he doesn't say anything. And then I sit down, and then I wake up, basically, more or less. I can't remember the exact context of that part of the dream yet. But basically, he invites me in. I feel like I was going to start a conversation, and then I'm like, okay, I'm awake now. That's one of those dreams. Like, I hate lucid dreaming and then not being able to go back to it immediately, because sometimes I wake up from a dream and I'm like, oh, I need to go back to sleep now.
Yeah.
And I think that if I didn't have to work, I think I had to work. I think that was the problem. I woke up right before I had to go to work. I'm like, oh shit, I can go back to sleep and get back there. And then I had to go to work. But so I missed part of that dream that I could have experienced. But that was the revisitation of the jump dream. And then for my scary dream, the ghost city, this one's a little less. This is a little more mundane. Well, I guess they're both kind of mundane. I've revisited both of them, but it's a little mundane because this one was just me exploring the city after the fact. But I popped back into the ghost city. It's still kind of exactly the same as I left it. I probably popped in the same part that I left in the first place. When I wake up in this dream, I'm aware that I'm lucid again. I'm like, wow, okay, I'm back here again. This is weird. But the city's it at this point. So it had been years since the first time I dreamed about this place. But I noticed the city had gotten a lot bigger, like a lot bigger. Like people had built not monster structures, but like 3 or 4, story buildings and shit like that. And there were shops in town. There was people in the streets, and they were actually, interacting and stuff like that. So I'm just walking around the city. I've never been to the Middle East or the East rather. I've been to the Middle East. Never been to the Far East, and but I imagine it'd be like what I'd see in a China city or a Japanese city, where you have like the city streets and then like vendors and little shops and
Yeah.
foods and stuff like that all over the place.
Stalls, essentially.
Yeah, like stalls like that. Just kind of like they're just kind of making society again. So they're all having like I don't know. What is that? Samurai Champloo. You remember how they like it's in like was it Edo period, and they have like shops outside and stuff like that, and they have like little what do you call them like bamboo and hay huts and stuff like that with vendors inside of them making foods. Yeah, straw huts and stuff like that. Not the buildings themselves, but like the vendor areas. So I'm like walking through and just kind of experiencing this. It was pretty cool to see this stuff. But that whole dream was me just revisiting the growing part of the city essentially, and just walking around, looking at what's happened since the last time I was there. Because I didn't know anybody, I hadn't been there in so long that trying to go find a person I'd talk to at some point would be kind of pointless.
That's really interesting. I don't think I've ever revisited a dream. Have you ever revisited a dream, Moose, or like a dream setting?
No, not that I can remember. I'm pretty sure I've never done that. At least that I can remember at the moment. So, yeah.
Here's another one. So, have you ever had a fictional character in your dream? And by fictional, I mean like completely fictional, like made up. Like there's fictional in the sense of like a video game character from, in your dream. That's not fictional because they exist in some sort of realm in reality, right? But I'm saying a character or something you have never seen before prior to the dream.
Probably not.
No?
I have.
Everything I can remember currently is based off of something I've seen.
Okay.
So I have, and I have. I'm going to explain something first, and this is just dream. Science, I guess, or whatever. Pseudoscience, more or less, about how characters are built in your dreams. Usually, if you've never seen a person in your dream in real life, they say, this is all hearsay, take it with a grain of salt, that your dreams are representations of faces, bodies, shapes, things you've seen during the day, night, people you remember in your past, people you remember, seeing in movies, things like that. And they kind of conglomerate into this shape in your dreams. That's why you can usually never remember a face, how people talk, things around you. Usually if you're not lucid dreaming, if you're just experiencing a dream rather than just, controlling it or being, an active part in it, usually you can't remember exact shapes or items or things like that. And that's the reasons, because it's a conglomeration of things your brain's trying to put together to make it seem like a reality to you at that point. But to answer the question, yes, I have had fictional period. I think that most of my dreams have fictional characters in them, like truly fictional, because I don't remember that they're, Lightning from Final Fantasy 13 or, shit like that. It's just like
the old man who gave you the gum, like
just random dude. He was more or less faceless because he was not like, he didn't have a beard. He didn't have anything that was distinctly shapely about him, except he had an old man face. But like, it was just, a unique looking old dude. I don't know I couldn't pair him with anybody in my mind, at least. And what I can remember of him, he had like kind of puffy lower eyelids, kind of had a wrinkly old nose. I don't remember any specific distinct features about that nose or whatever. It didn't have like a mole or anything. I don't know, just kind of looked like you generic NPC character, like, and generic old dude, I guess we'll call him. Same thing with the Ghost City dream. Everybody I saw in that dream was just some unique person that I couldn't place. And I'll come back to that at the end of the podcast because there's something else I want to explain that we're going to end up covering after this. But
I think I know exactly what you're going to say.
you probably do because we covered this in the Cast Essential version of this
I don't remember.
a little bit. But and some dreams that I've had that I've experienced more so than were lucid in, or was partially lucid but not in full control of myself in the dream. I've seen people like William Shatner, Tobey Maguire, people like in places in movies. So like things I think about in my mind that may have happened in a movie that my mind created a fictional space for, and then just put a bunch of fucking random characters in that I've seen in other places. I've never been in a dream where the entire reality was some kind of cartoony world, something that wasn't out of my own reality, right? So my body shape and tactile functions were not different. It was just me mostly, or me bussing another character.
Alrighty. Now this is, I'm assuming, the question here we're waiting on. This
Probably.
is like a sort of like a two-part question, right? So, what do you think your dreams are? Are they fiction? Like, are they completely just work of fiction of like whatever your brain is doing, or are they another version of reality? So
I'm gonna let you
assume-
guys go through this first.
Moose, what do
'Cause
you
I'm
think?
curious.
Do you think dreams are just completely work of fiction of your brain just trying to work things out, or do you think it's another version of reality?
So I've had this idea for a while. It's kind of a strange one.
Very existential, right?
It's really existential. And that like essentially stories are just reality, someone else's reality that you're seeing. Kind of like anything that's written down is either something that's happened or will happen. Kind of like not necessarily to anyone in our world, but it becomes, as it happens, it becomes its own reality. I feel like, kind of almost, because like there's no way to prove it's not. And like, so people talk about prophecies and everything and how they see that. What if the reason why you see these stories, some people are in tune with like the current world they live in, so that's why they say they can predict the future, whereas other people that come up with these stories, like say Star Wars for instance, God, that just the reason why stuff people know or that came up is because someone somehow got a peek into that universe, essentially. Like it exists somewhere, but you don't actually, there's no way for us to necessarily come into contact.
So what you're saying is you think that our dreams could be somebody else's reality.
Yes, I totally believe that's an entirely possibility. I'm not saying that's necessarily what it is, because that is really kind of crazy sounding, but I could totally also see that, because I've kind of written a story once where essentially, how, have you ever read stories where people kind of transport into worlds that are like novels kind of deal?
Yeah, sure.
Well,
what are you doing, Moose?
You playing Overwatch in there, Moose?
maybe.
Goddamn, we're doing a podcast right now.
Look, see, the problem is for me is that I have some problem where if I try and focus on one thing, I can't. Okay, so I'm trying to play something. I've been going between WoW and Overwatch this whole time. We've been doing both podcasts.
Oh yeah, trust me, I've noticed.
So I just have a problem where if I don't, I'll try and read something on the side or whatever. So this is the better option. Let's be fair.
Is it the better option though?
Yes, because I'm actually able to focus on what you guys are saying. You don't have to believe me if you don't want to.
Alt.
But God damn.
Okay. I know
you
you
got
have a
me
lot to
off on a tangent, and now I don't remember what I was talking about.
Yeah, I'm the one that got drawn on that. Anyway,
You did. You did, because you distracted me from what I was saying.
Right. We can check the tapes, all right?
We will check the tapes. I was perfectly fine until you called me out.
No, it's because you had a pause in there because you were raging.
No, because I didn't care, because I'm playing quick play. Because
Okay.
who cared?
Well-
But I still don't remember what I was saying.
That our dreams
Oh, the alternate
could be
reality.
somebody
So
else's reality.
there's what is it called? It's like transmitigation or something along that line, where basically you read a novel and then you get transported into the world of that novel as a character. So
Mhm.
like it'd be like saying in the Lord of the Rings books, that's the first one that came to mind that most people would know, is that say I'm reading Lord of the Rings and then I go to sleep and I wake up and I'm Legolas or Aragorn or Gimli or whoever. So I now have knowledge of this world and I can possibly influence it. But then you also have people who believe that even when you do that, you can influence it to an extent, but for the most part, the world has I guess you could call it a guiding influence, where you can change minor things, but the majority of the plot is still kind of predetermined and set to function and go in one direction. So you're not necessarily able to change it. So that's kind of where the idea came to me that, like, essentially you can have all stories are their own worlds, which in a sense they are, even if it's not like physically real. But obviously stories are become a world and they have a life of their own, and like that's how you get fanfic. It's people trying to expand and work on the world. Not to say that fanfics are always good, because there are some trash ass ones I've seen, trust me. But I do believe that to an extent every story is its own world that could be real. So
Alrighty. Alt, I know you have a lot to say about this concept. Are
I do.
dreams fiction, or are they actually a reality of some sort? Is it
Okay,
ours?
so
Is it somebody else's?
I have a two-part thing for this. One's the pilot theory, which is something I've come up with in my own mind.
Okay.
So when
Yeah.
you have a lucid dream, I call this the pilot theory, whereas you are you in the dream world or you in this other dimensional area, and you're just like occupying that space in your dream, and you're experiencing that world or universe through your own, basically your own physical body, more or less. You just kind of pop into that reality in a different universe, more or less. We're talking the existential side for now. I'm gonna stick away from the fictional side until after this part, because this is more interesting stuff for me. So you're piloting your own body in a lucid dream. You basically just enter reality through your own body into this space through a dream mechanic of somewhat. It's all pseudoscience in my mind. It's not real that I can prove, so it doesn't really matter. But I like to think that might be a thing. The other thing is the being piloted by, like, when you go to sleep and you dream and you're like something's happening, you're not in control of your body, is because you're probably not in control. So on that same note, let's say you dream about, and I'm just gonna shoot in the dark here because I have exactly a dream that I'm gonna reference here for a second, and we're gonna go with that because this is a really weird one for me. So I go to sleep one night. This is not lucid. I was aware that I was in a dream, but I was not lucid. This is something I was being, yeah, I was I was part of whoever's fucking body this was. That was for sure. Because if I was not, if I was in control of myself, I wouldn't be anywhere near what the fuck is going on. So I wake up in a futuristic compared to our own world universe setup. And it's like, I don't know how to explain it. Like, say it's a kingdom in space, more or less, right? So it's in some other, I don't, it could be Earth, it could be fucking wherever in the universe. We'll call it Earth, though. Earth 600. And I wake up in this guy's body, and he's just doing his daily normal routine shit. But he's like royalty or an advisor or something like that to the king or the queen or fucking whatever. He's some kind of like, he's definitely inside the political part of this dream. Well, anyway, so I walk outside, or this guy walks outside more or less, and it's just like a starscape. Like you walk outside and like, you know how you can see the sky without light pollution, and it's just like a really starry landscape. You can see like, it's ridiculous, right? So we're in like North Canada, Alaska, out in the darkest of night, right? There's no moon. It's just like starlight, more or less. Anyway, so this is really crazy to look at. It's really cool, but I'm like looking at it, and then I'm not looking at it because I'm like, why aren't we looking at this anymore? This is really cool. So we keep going on about our day. It's kind of like how you pilot your own body in real life, right? So you just kind of you know where you're going, you carry yourself to a place, but you feel like you're not looking at yourself in third person. This isn't a third person dream for me at this point. This is just I'm getting moved around. So we go to these palace stairs, and I'm gonna say a king. I don't know the full context of the dream yet. In this part of the dream, but I'm gonna say there's a king running towards me with another person, female or male, I can't remember, not relevant, but it's a king, I think, very royalty looking person. He's running at me as fast as he can, and he's like, you were the person I was looking for. I need you really, for whatever the fuck's going on. And something about the world's coming to an end, and this goes along with my constant world-ending scenarios. I think I'm cursed to ever live in. I didn't get to finish this world-ending event though, just so we're clear. But there was something terrible. In context, something about a quasar and annihilation. That's all I got from that part. But it's like, we need you for, he's some kind of scientist or something, my guy, in this part of the dream. And he's like, we need you to something, blah, 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 sciencey stuff. And then I wake up. And then that's me being piloted around by somebody else. That's a first person, not third person version of a dream world in another universe. My pilot theory, though, I think for lucid dreaming is you occupying new space in a new world. You can change stuff, you can interact with stuff. That's why I think when I revisit dreams, and since time has passed in the dream, that we're still on the same kind of timeline as we are in real Earth time, right? So I leave, I come back in a couple of years, and stuff has changed. And
like it's constantly moving forward. You're never at the same spot.
Right. So I think time passes. Like if the dimensions time that you go to goes forward like ours does, there's quantum theories where it says if in certain universes time can flow the other direction, but we're not going to get into that. But as long as the time in the world and the physics in the world are the same as ours, I think in lucid dreams that's reality for that universe. You're not necessarily in reality in that dream, but that reality is that universe's reality at that point. So when you're in there, you're there. When you're not, I don't know, you become a fucking dead body on the ground. I don't know. I'm not sure exactly what happens after that point. So
I would say it's probably like a form of possession almost.
Well, I think for the lucid one,
like,
I think it's just you, because I can you when you're lucid, you can like see yourself, like you're a person, right? So you could go up to a mirror and you're like, that's me, right? You can see the face.
So with that instance where you were just talking about where you're watching something, I see that as possession, or like a form of like scrying, I guess you could say, because remote viewing. That's what I see that as. It's a form of remote viewing because you're seeing it, but you're not interacting. That's the key difference. You're not interacting.
but in the 2 lucid dreams I explained before, I did interact. I touched people.
No. I'm saying this is a completely different instance. Okay.
Mm.
With this instance, it's a form of remote viewing kind of deal. You're watching a story through someone else's eyes kind of deal.
Oh yeah, no, that's basically what I was explaining.
Okay.
Yeah. But like for the lucid dreams, I feel like you're now a person in that. You're just now a thing.
I have a weird thought that just kind of came to mind based off of a conversation I had ages ago with a friend of mine, where essentially like ghosts are beings from like say a higher dimension. So you know how people talk about the first, third, fourth dimension. So say like a ghost or something of that nature, like when you have like an out of body experience, is you going and kind of transcending almost, I guess you could say, to a higher dimension or realm for a time being. And you now have access to things you wouldn't normally have access to because you have a greater potential kind of almost unlocked. So that's the way I kind of see those dreams you're talking about, where it's a different kind of realm of existence, almost you could call it, where your body is there, but only when you're there conscious. Like the rest of the time, it's just kind of, I guess, energy in the atmosphere, you could almost call it. And it only comes together to form your body when your consciousness is the anchor to hold it there together. Because if it's otherwise, it could be an alternate reality you, and you're just switching places for a little bit.
See, and that was the other thing I was going to say. I was like, maybe in these realities, like revisit, where I'm lucid at, I am me because I'm piloting me, which would be fucking weird and awesome at the same time. But think about or
it's reincarnation and you're reliving past lives.
Oh boy, that's diving real deep.
I don't believe that one at all.
That'd be crazy.
That would be crazy.
So for the fictional or the non-fictional side, or the fictional side of it, I guess, non-fiction, the fictional side of it. Yeah. Anyway, the fictional side of it, where the dreams aren't actually a real thing, and this is just a process of my mind trying to
your subconscious.
It's trying to build some reality for me to relieve stress. If that's the case, man, my body doesn't know what the fuck it needs to do. My brain's like,
I was gonna say,
holy crap, man. Some of the dreams I have are fucking ridiculous. So I had this is a fictional dream. It had to been, or it's in some fucking bizarro weird universe.
And bizarro.
I had a dream one time. I woke up in a cave, and William Shatner is sitting in the corner with me in this, he's in the cave with me, but he's sitting in a corner, and he's just kind of like rocking back and forth, fucking freaking the fuck out. And he's not actually talking. He's just mumbling stuff and sitting in the corner, just not crying, but like he's crazy. Like you can tell he's fucking
whimpering.
Nuts. Yeah. He's making groaning noises. He's not having a good time, and he's not in a good mental state. Well, anyway, so he's freaking the fuck out. I try to leave the cave, and this motherfucker gets up and starts running after me. So I run the fuck out of the cave. And then this cave is attached to like a waterfall type scenario. It's like a cave within a cave, and there's water flowing through it in the middle between. So there's a separation between. I don't know how to. Let's say, for instance, the cave's on this side, right? And this is the one I'm coming out of, and there's water moving where my face is at, right? And it's going towards you.
No, I get so almost like a sewer system, kind of.
And there's another spot on the other side too, right? I'm not sure if there's an actual cave on that side, but there's another side of this place, and then there's it extends out like the thing you could walk on. not really a platform or like any like built structure, but like the ground juts out over the waterfall area, so you could walk out and look down the waterfall basically on both sides, and then there's a bridge connecting the two sides right there at the end. So William Shatner chases me out of this fucking cave, and I run out, and I'm running towards the edge of where the waterfall is and where it drops off at. And I'm going to run towards the bridge. It's a rope bridge, goes across the other side. I'm trying to escape William Shatner. I get to the edge of the bridge, and I look to go travel across the bridge, and there's two.
I'm just trying to imagine this.
This is the scariest weird dream I've ever had in my life. Well, anyway, I got fucking Psycho William Shatner behind me. I've got two kids in front of me, and they look terrifying in their own right. They're just out of place.
So
there shouldn't be kids. That's not really shining. They're not twins. They're two kids, and they have this is a pretty big bridge.
It's
they have
disconcerting.
It's just they're out of place. It just freaked me out because they're not supposed to be there, right? They're sitting at like a little small table, like a child's table size thing, in the middle of the bridge. And I'm looking at them, and I'm like, well, I guess I'm gonna go across the bridge. So I sprint across the bridge, and I run past the children. And the children stand up as soon as I run past them. They look at William Shatner. William Shatner freaks the fuck out, and he jumps off the bridge and dies. And that was the end of the dream. But if your dreams are supposed to be expressing something, I don't know what the fuck was going on here. Like, I don't know how to break this down into a thing. With my mind's like, you had a real stressful day, bud. So William Shatner chasing you across the bridge with some kids on it. I don't fucking know. Like, that was a weird dream. But like most of the dreams I have are post-apocalyptic or apocalyptic style dreams where I end up dying in them, or the world comes to an abrupt end. And some of them are really cool. Like I said, I don't have nightmares. I don't have except for every time I've had sleep paralysis has been a nightmare for me personally, because it's so fucking terrifying because I can't move. I'm awake and then I'm like, and I can't do anything. But like, I've never had a nightmare where I'm like, it just freaked me out forever afterwards. But yeah, so the fictional parts of the dreams, question mark. But I want to think that the universe theory where I am piloting either myself or another body is way more appealing to me.
Could be that it's a virtual reality game that you can only sometimes access when you're asleep.
Or we're in virtual reality right now.
We're in the Matrix. Not like this. Oh my god. I'm gonna die.
Yeah, I don't think I have anything else to add to that. You basically delved into all of the other questions I had.
I mean, you can go over the questions real quick.
No, I mean they're all the same. Like the final one was, do you think dreams are meant to have meaning? But we kind of went over that with what dreams could possibly be. So
I want to know your thoughts on that, Mac, on whether you think dreams are supposed to have meaning or not, because you came up with that question specifically for a reason.
In some instances, perhaps, yeah. But I don't think every dream has meaning, right? I think some dreams is just your brain. It's running too fast and it's putting too many things together, and it's So yeah, sometimes I think it does, especially when you can remember the dream. It probably means something, right? Maybe not. It might not mean what you want it to mean, but it has some sort of meaning. But like, there's also like so much stuff going on. I mean, your brain. Thoughts are constantly running. So yeah, I mean, are they meant to have meaning? Sometimes. Do they have meaning? I think so, yes.
If you'll let me indulge myself a little bit, I have one more dream, and it's the only dream I've ever had about a person in my life that I knew, like an actual person, like a real life person, right? And it's also the only dream I've ever actually felt real pain in. So that's an interesting fact. So I had a dream, and Shiju was in it.
Shout out to Shiju.
Shout out to Shiju.
Did she step slightly to the left and then crouch into a snake?
No.
Damn.
She was real Shiju in this one.
Okay.
So, all right. So this is a really it was a weird dream for me anyway. But anyway, so me and Shiju are dating in the dream like we are in real life. And then she gets kidnapped by terrorists or banditos or fucking something. The world's a normal place right now. She just gets kidnapped out of nowhere. We're staying at a hotel, and in the middle of the night, she walks outside, and I don't know where the fuck she's at now. So that was the scary part of the dream. Well, in this dream, I'm not lucid. I'm aware, but I'm not lucid, right? So I know stuff's going on. I don't have full control of what's going on, but I'm not lucid in this one. I can feel stuff, which is a complete shift from every other dream I've been in, and I kind of have an idea what's going on. I have pretty much full context of what's going on in the dream. I go outside in the morning because I wake up, she's not there. I don't know what's going on. I ask the attendant at the desk where my girlfriend went, and they're like, she was outside. I saw her walk outside past the desk. She went out to go have a cigarette or something. I don't know. And then she never came back. I'm like, okay, well, she wouldn't have just left. We don't have anything but a rental car right now, and the rental car's here. So I'm like, okay. So I go around the local area asking about Shiju, and I finally catch some leads on where she could have possibly gone. And they're like, and I felt like we're in like futuristic Brazil or something. Some could be dangerous, but not necessarily dangerous area, right? So like it'd be like outside of Mexico City kind of stuff, like where you could probably go and be okay, but sometimes you might get picked up by a fucking cartel, right? No guarantees, but whatever. So she gets picked up by some cartel-like entity, terrorist organization, whatever. I figure out she's outside of town probably because that's where their base is at, or that's where they're kind of housed at. So I take the car. I drive about 3/4 of the way there because I don't want to drive up on this place. I want to walk towards it because I want to be more quiet, and I don't want to alert them to my presence necessarily if they're looking for people outside. So I drive about 3/4 of the way there. I get out, and this is kind of in like a desert-y kind of place. It's not full desert. There's still like foliage behind me, but it's kind of deserty in front of me. And I see some buildings. I don't know. They're like some warehouses and some like sheds and some kind of units like trailer houses or something. They're not like it's not like a place to live, but there's like something going on here, maybe construction. I don't fucking know. Walk down there, go into the buildings. I'm looking around, seeing if I can hear any screaming, crying, whimpering, struggling, anything, people, fucking whatever. I just know that she might be here and I'm looking for her. So I'm looking through these buildings and I finally find a locked area, like a locked door, has a chain on it, has a lock on it. I go find something to break it off with. I break the lock off, open it up. She's in there and she's tied to a like a metal pipe, and hands behind her back. She's on her butt. And she's got a gag in her mouth, and she's blindfolded. And I'm like, okay, well, this shit just escalated quickly. I have seen nobody else at this point, though. Right? I've only walked around this entire place. I've seen nobody except for her at this point. So I'm like, I found Shiju. That good so far. I've avoided all detection as far as I know. I found Shiju. So I take the gag out, unblindfold her, and I'm like, hey, we gotta get the fuck out of here, right? And she's like, oh, I know, we need to get out of here now because something's about to happen. So I untie her. We walk out, and she's like, we need to get the fuck out of here now. Did you bring a car or whatever? I'm like, no, I mean, there's a car here, but it's like, a couple miles that way because I only drove about 3/4 away. And she's like, oh, we need to go the other direction. Because apparently in that city, she told me, because she overheard the cartel or whatever talking, that they had put a nuke to detonate in the city that I came from. And for some reason they wanted to fucking kidnap her for question mark. I don't know at this point because we haven't had a chance to like actually talk about this, but she's like, they put a nuke in the city and they can blow it up. And what time is it? I have no clue, but they said it was going to be kind of soon. They drove off hours ago, right? And it's going to detonate. I'm like, oh shit. So, okay. So we go out to the road looking for any vehicle. There is none at all. Just fucking desert and trees. And going back to the car probably won't be lucrative. So we just keep going down the road away from the city as far as we can. And she's like, I have no clue when it's going to go off. It may go off now, could go off fucking 3 hours from now. I don't know. So we're just walking, looking for something, anything. And we get down and we feel like a shockwave almost. Like you can feel the ground rumble briefly. It's like a boom. Like, but I didn't. Past that, we felt nothing. And we're like, oh shit, hopefully that wasn't it. And hopefully that was anything else. So we're still walking, trying to find, anything. We start kind of jog running, looking for stuff because we're starting to get desperate. And then behind us, we look back and there's a fucking fireball in the sky. And we're like, oh shit. And like, I don't know what to do. We're both like fucking going nuts here. We're like out of our minds. We're like, it's just basically fucking desert everywhere. There's nowhere to hide. There's no trees. There's no like rocks to get under. Nothing. So like, I guess we'll die then if it gets this far. I don't know how what the yield of this fucking nuke is, right? So I just see fireball, and we're like still running as fast as we can to nowhere basically, and slowly over the hill we see like a dust cloud kind of like jut over like where we came from, and then like fire following that. And the shockwave hits us finally from the initial explosion, and it kind of like blows some dust into us, and I can kind of feel it stinging my skin. Kind of like if you walk out and it's really windy outside and you're like in a parking lot and it's got a lot of dust flying around. It's kind of the way it felt. And I'm like, fuck, we're dead. Like we're still like the most dead. Like we can't get any more dead than this. We can't get away from this. It's impossible. And then right after that thought, fucking fire sweeps over us, and it's the first time I felt pain in a dream so much that it woke me up. Like, damn. I was like, holy shit. Like I could feel the heat touching my skin, and it like hurt like a lot in the dream. Then I woke up and I thought I was hurt for a minute, and I was like, what the fuck just happened? And I'm like looking at my skin, looking at my hands and shit. I'm like, what the fuck? There's nothing around me, and like nothing's touched me. I'm still like laying on top of my blankets. I'm just like, it shocked me. I was like, holy fuck. But yeah, that was interesting. So that was don't try to outrun a nuke in a dream.
Wait, oh my gosh. I have one question. How is it that that's the dream you tell me now, but the ghost dream was your scary dream?
Oh, because I experienced kind of a similar thing, and I was lucid in that dream, so I could actually do stuff.
Okay.
I wasn't being piloted by anybody. In this one, I was just kind of following the dream's narrative. In the ghost dream, I was part of it, and I watched shit fly down from the sky, and I was like, oh, well, I have no idea what to do here either. But like, then I had a choice. In this dream, I had no choice.
Right. Okay.
So I'm just kind of like, I'm just gonna do whatever happens now. Because what I would have done was ran back to the fucking car as fast as I could, got it, and drove, into the sunset. In this dream, this guy's just like, we're just gonna run forever, and just hope to fucking outrun a nuke. So I don't know.
Sounds like a terrible movie.
The reason this one is a little bit more interesting too is because this one happened somewhat recently. The ghost dream happened years and years ago. This one happened like last year.
Okay.
Right? So it was pretty fresh in my mind. But yeah, that was fucking crazy. Like I've never been hurt in a dream. Well, I've been bit in a dream once, and that was a long time ago too.
Charlie bit me.
And this is when I was working nights and going to bed at like 7:00 in the morning, and it was in the middle of winter, and I slept in an attic at this point. This was like when I was younger and still poor and didn't have a real boy job. But I was sleeping in an attic in my buddy's house, and there's a window up there. There's a small like circular cross window, and it's a real small space. So I'm not claustrophobic, but like when you're in a room that small and there's something coming at you and you can't get out of it real quick, that's a little scary.
Yeah.
But I thought, well, in my dream, a fucking vampire came through the window somehow and bit my neck. I woke up and it felt like somebody bit my neck, and it was still hurting after I woke up. And I was like, what the fuck happened? So it was the first time I felt that like it was like a pinch, more or less. It wasn't like actual pain like the fucking nuke dream where it peeled my skin off.
Damn.
So, yeah.
Well, fellas, I think if we've learned one thing with this podcast, it would be this. Dreams or drums can be scary sometimes. That's
Yes.
that's what we got
Facts.
out of this. Those were all fascinating stories, really. I mean, they're like, somebody should take those. This is what we're gonna do. We're gonna take the stories from our drums, and then go to the Gamescast universe, and then tell the developers we're talking about the Gamescast to take our stories and the dreams and put them in games. That's how you save
So-
single player games.
So I actually thought about this at one point about because I have really vivid dreams when I remember them and wake up and actually write them down. I have really vivid dreams about fucking random shit. But I think some of them could be made into something, not necessarily a full book. It's not
Short stories.
Not Stephen King levels of shit, but maybe like Edgar Allan Poe's level of shit, like a million short stories about my random dream worlds.
Right. No, it's an interesting topic. There's a lot. I feel that there's a lot to be discovered with dreams, and I don't know. I don't hear too much about it. It's interesting. It's kind of like, how they say the sea is like only like 2% tapped into. Like we still don't
Explored.
Really, yeah,
we
still,
know less about the sea than we do about outer space.
Yeah, isn't that wild? I think the concept of dreams is also very much untapped. Like, we don't really know what is going on, but we kind of take it for granted as like, oh, damn, well, that was, damn.
Right. Well,
Also,
it's the same thing with our consciousness, right? Our feeling of self. Like, we take that for granted all the time. Like, us being us, as far as we know, only happens once, right?
Yeah.
Everybody takes that for granted all the time. Like, that's why I like spending money and doing fun shit, because I'm not going to necessarily be here every fucking day for the rest of my life.
You don't
right?
get an extra life.
YOLO.
Yeah, like, so I mean, I enjoy myself, but I also try to, balance it a little bit.
We didn't really mention it before, and I thought we would, but supposedly, allegedly, every face you see in a dream is someone you've seen in real life,
That was mentioned.
whether in passing or whatever.
Paul mentioned that earlier.
Did he?
Yep.
Yeah,
'Cause I
went over that.
Yeah. Must have been playing Overwatch. Anyway.
No.
Good convo, fellas. That was a good one. Another one for the archive in the shitty pre-era Fall Damage before we all get under one roof.
Yeah, before we go pro.
By the way,
CGM.
it seemed like every time one of y'all was talking, when you started talking, that's when you went blurry. So Discord, something's going on. Something's up.
Y'all need to fix your stuff.
Alrighty though, this was the Fall Damage podcast, not the Gamescast, the podcast. I don't know what number this is, but eventually we'll get them all in order.
One. They're all one until we get
They're
into the
all
same
one.
roof.
They're all podcast number one until we figure out what's going on. All right, Alt is on the far left. Moose right down the middle. I'm Mac, and this is goodbye.
Off, Alicia.
I was waiting for you to say that.